We're live from New Delhi, watching DT India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Amid growing military tensions, Iran and US to hold a third round of nuclear talks on Thursday in Geneva. Mexico's most wanted drug cartel leader El Mencho killed. Violence sweeps region. US and Canadian airlines cancel flights. Powerful winter storm targets US. State of emergency declared in affected regions. New York City issues travel ban. And in sports, 2026 Winter Olympic cauldron in Milan extinguished as the two-week sporting event comes to end with spectacular ceremony. And on to the details now. Oman's foreign minister has confirmed that further talks between the United States and Iran will take place in Geneva on Thursday. Badr al-Busaidi said in a social media post that the talks were set with a positive push to go the extra mile towards finalizing the deal. The announcement comes as the US continues to amass military assets in the Middle East, raising concerns about an all-out war against Iran. The possible timing of an attack is unclear. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is due to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on February 28 to discuss Iran. A senior US official said it would be mid-March before all US forces were in place. Hours before Oman's announcement, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Tehran was ready to put in place a full monitoring mechanism to guarantee the peaceful nature of its nuclear program and ease the tensions. Araghchi, however, said on Sunday that Iran was negotiating only nuclear at the present time. And Mexico drug lord Nemesio Oseguera, commonly known as El Mencho, has been killed in a military raid on Sunday. Mexico's defense ministry said a shootout in the western state of Jalisco left Oseguera seriously injured and he died during an air transfer to Mexico City. The ministry noted that U.S. authorities had provided complimentary information. An ex-police officer, Oseguera was the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. The kingpin's killing notches a major victory for Mexico's war on drug cartels that are responsible for smuggling billions of dollars in cocaine and fentanyl into the U.S. Well, the operation set off a wave of violence with torched cars and gunmen blocking highways in more than half a dozen states. Mexican media outlets reported burning vehicles and gunmen blocking highways in more than half a dozen states across the country, particularly in the north and the west. Jalisco Governor Pablo Lemus Navarro urged residents to stay home until the situation was brought under control, and the U.S. Embassy advised its citizens to shelter in place. Well, the military operation against Oseguera follows a pressure campaign from the administration of U.S. President Trump on Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum's government to crack down harder on drug trafficking. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico on Sunday urged U.S. citizens to take shelter in several Mexican states and reduce their movements after drug lord El Mencho was killed in a military operation. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landor said Oseguera's killing was a great development for the U.S. and Mexico as well as the rest of Latin America. Air Canada said on Sunday it temporarily suspended operations in Jalisco's Puerto Vallarta on the Pacific coast. United Airlines and American Airlines said they have cancelled flight operations to Puerto Vallarta and Guadalajara. Also, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said activities are normal in most of Mexico after drug lord El Mencho's death in a military operation. She said in a post on X, and I quote, "There is absolute coordination with the governments of all states. We must remain informed and calm," unquote. And Greenland said no thanks to U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to send a hospital ship to the Arctic island after he repeatedly threatened to seize the island. Prime Minister Jens Fredrik Nielsen said in a post on Facebook on Sunday that Trump's proposal to send the U.S. medical vessel had been noted. Nielsen said, reiterating Greenland remained open to dialogue and cooperation, but we have a public healthcare system where treatment is free for all citizens. It is a deliberate choice. Trump said on Sunday on social media he was working with Louisiana Governor and Special Envoy to Greenland, Jeff Landry, to send the Mercy Hospital boat to Greenland. Greenland, Denmark and the U.S. late last month launched diplomatic talks to resolve the crisis between the parties following months of tension within the NATO Defense Alliance over Trump's threat against the Arctic territory. And U.S. Secret Service agents fatally shot a man armed with a shotgun who breached the security perimeter of President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida in the early hours of Sunday morning. Trump, who is currently in Washington, was not at the site at the time. The man in Sunday's incident was identified as Austin Tucker Martin from North Carolina. He was reported missing within the last few days. The incident occurred at a time when the United States is facing a spike in political violence. In 2024, a gunman's bullet grazed Trump's ear during a campaign rally in Pennsylvania, and a man later convicted of attempted assassination was spotted hiding in the bushes of a Florida golf course with a semi-automatic rifle while Trump was on the course. In September last year, right-wing influencer and staunch Trump ally Charlie Kirk was shot dead during an event at a university in Utah. Law enforcement officials did not reveal any information about the motive for the incident, and the FBI has taken over the investigation and is collecting evidence from the scene.
The security detail detected that an individual had made his way into the inner perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. A deputy and 2 Secret Service agents on the detail went to that area to investigate. They confronted a white male that was carrying a gas can and a shotgun. He was ordered to drop those 2 pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the 2 Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene.
Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that developing Russia's nuclear forces was now an absolute priority following the expiry of its last remaining nuclear treaty with the U.S. His speech came on Russia's Defender of the Fatherland Day, a holiday that is an occasion for military pomp and Kremlin-sponsored patriotism. Putin vowed to keep strengthening the army and navy and draw on military experience from the nearly 4-year conflict in Ukraine. His remarks came just 2 days before the 4th anniversary of its conflict with Ukraine. Moscow and Washington, the world's 2 main nuclear powers, are no longer bound by any arms control pact since the New START agreement expired earlier this month. But Russia said it would continue taking a responsible approach to strategic nuclear capability and respecting the limits set on its arsenal. Also, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called the bomb explosions in Lviv a cynical and cruel terrorist act. 1 police officer was killed and 24 other people were wounded after several explosive devices detonated at midnight in Lviv in western Ukraine. The police said that the first explosion occurred after a patrol crew arrived at the suspected scene of a shop break-in, while the second explosion occurred a little later. Zelensky also said the Ministry of Defense and the military would expand the defense in areas where Russian drone attacks are intensifying, including Sumy and Chernihiv regions. Well, Hungary said it will block the European Union's next package of sanctions against Russia, the latest step aimed at pushing Ukraine to resume the flow of Russian oil through a pipeline supplying Hungarian refineries. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán announced 3 countermeasures in response to Ukraine's suspension of crude oil deliveries through the Druzhba pipeline. Orbán stressed that Hungary would maintain its economic and social stability and take further action if necessary. The measures include halting diesel shipments from Hungary to Ukraine, refusing to provide military loans, and withholding support for new EU sanctions against Russia, including the bloc's 20th sanctions package. Shipments of Russian oil to Hungary and Slovakia via the Druzhba pipeline have been cut off since January 27th, when Kyiv said a Russian drone strike hit pipeline equipment in western Ukraine. Slovakia and Hungary say Ukraine is to blame for the prolonged outage. And more than 200 Venezuelan political prisoners were on hunger strike to demand their release under a new amnesty law that excludes many of them. The hunger strike began on Friday night at the Rodeo prison on the outskirts of Caracas. Inmates complained they would not benefit from the law because it excludes the cases involving the military, which are the most common ones at that facility. The amnesty law was engineered by interim leader Delcy Rodriguez under pressure from Washington. Opposition figures have criticized the new legislation, which appears to include carve-outs for some offences previously used by authorities to target Maduro's political opponents. And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has been re-elected as the General Secretary of the ruling Workers' Party at a rare Congress. The state news agency reported that the decision was made on day 4 of the Congress in accordance with the unshakable will and unanimous desire of all the delegates. Held just once every 5 years, the gathering directs state efforts on everything from house building to war planning. It is just the 9th time the Workers' Party Congress has convened under the Kim family's decades-long rule. The meeting was shelved under Kim's father, Kim Jong-il, but was reviewed in 2016. In his speech to open the Congress on Thursday, Kim vowed to lift living standards, offering a glimpse of the economic strains affecting his sanctions-hit nation. And in weather updates, blizzard warnings were issued for New York City and parts of New Jersey and Connecticut as a major storm was forecast to hit a large swathe of the East Coast. The city stopped more transportation services, allowing only emergency travel as a major winter storm approached the Northeast, and officials warned that power cuts were possible. Streets, highways and bridges will remain closed until noon on Monday under a state of emergency, with residents urged to avoid non-essential travel. States of emergency and travel restrictions were also declared in Connecticut, Delaware, New Jersey and Rhode Island, alongside similar measures in New York and Massachusetts. While snow began falling over Times Square on Sunday, but crowds continue to move through the bustling streets ahead of the impending major winter storm. The National Weather Service warned that blizzard conditions would rapidly develop from Maryland through southeastern New England, with heavy snow and strong winds forecast from Sunday into Monday across the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. In Poland, ice flowed down the Vistula River on Sunday as the weather finally warmed after almost 2 months of unusually extreme winter weather. Just before the new year, Poland experienced unusually cold weather, resulting in heavy snowfall and the freezing of rivers, lakes and sections of the Baltic Sea. However, forecasts now indicate a shift to warmer conditions, with temperatures projected to exceed the typical levels for this time of the year. The State Institute of Meteorology and Water Management of Poland has cautioned that the rapid melting of snow and ice could lead to sudden increases in water levels within the Vistula River basin. And still to come in this edition of DT India Live. India condemns Pakistan's airstrikes on Afghanistan during Ramadan, backs Afghan sovereignty. Indian Manipuri film Boong makes history as first Indian winner in BAFTA's Best Children's and Family Film category. And Asian markets cautious, dollar slips amid US tariff uncertainty. Welcome back. You're watching TD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, India has strongly condemned Pakistan's airstrikes on Afghanistan, which resulted in civilian casualties during the holy month of Ramadan. In a statement, the Ministry of External Affairs said that the airstrikes are another attempt by Pakistan to externalize its internal failures. India also reiterated its support for Afghanistan's sovereignty. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold a historic visit to Israel this coming Wednesday. Responding on social media to his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the strong bond between the two countries. He said, and I quote, "I fully agree with you on the bond between India and Israel, as well as the diverse nature of our bilateral relations. India deeply values the enduring friendship with Israel built on trust, innovation, and a shared commitment to peace and progress. Looking forward to our discussions during my upcoming Israel visit," unquote. Well, earlier on Sunday, Netanyahu described Prime Minister Modi's visit as historic and called India-Israel ties a powerful alliance between two global leaders. He said that India and Israel are partners in innovation, security, and a shared strategic vision.
On Wednesday, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will arrive. He will address the Knesset, and I am sure you will be there. And we will also hold an innovation event in Jerusalem. Visit Yad Vashem together. I will also note something else, a special collaboration. We will advance cooperation in high-tech AI and quantum. I say AI and quantum because it's not the future, it's the present, and we want to be among the world's leading countries in this field.
And in a proud moment for India, Boong, an Indian Manipuri film, has won a BAFTA in the Best Children's and Family Film category. It is the first Indian film to score a nomination in this category, and with this movie, history has been scripted. The film has been produced by Farhan Akhtar and Ritesh Sidhwani's Excel Entertainment, helmed by debutant director Lakshmi Priya Devi. The film is a coming-of-age drama about a young boy named Boong from a valley of Manipur who plans to surprise her mother with a gift. And what would be the perfect gift for her mother than bringing his father back, refusing to believe that his father Joy Kumar has died after migrating. Well, the Indian community in Dubai came together to remember one of UAE's most celebrated photographers and Indian expatriates, Ramesh Shukla. A commemorative gathering was held at the Indian Club, attended by members of the Indian diaspora, the Indian ambassador to the UAE and the Consul General of India in Dubai. Shukla, who died on February 15th at the age of 87, was famously referred to as the royal photographer, a designation that, though unofficial, held significant prestige. His most celebrated work was capturing the late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan signing the UAE's 1971 founding declaration. He also captured the spirit of the Union, showing the founding leaders united before the UAE flag shortly after the signing. Both images are now featuring on the 50 dirham note. And as Holi festivities approach, Mathura is gearing up with extensive security measures to ensure peaceful celebrations, especially during the iconic Latmar Holi in Barsana. To prevent any untoward incidents or disruptions, security personnel will be strategically deployed within the crowd, blending in as regular devotees. The primary task will be to monitor and identify any rioters or suspicious individuals.
The ancient town of Barsana in Mathura is alive with festive energy as it prepares to host its iconic Holi celebrations. Authorities are working round the clock to ensure that every devotee experiences this festival safely and comfortably. Multiple departments have joined hands to oversee security, sanitation, traffic management and medical arrangements across the town.
प्रत्येक जगह को छोटे छोटे सेक्टर में डिवाइड करके साफ सफाई, बिजली के पोल पर करंट ना उतरे, बिजली आपूर्ति हो, पानी की प्रॉपर व्यवस्था रहे, 24/7 सफाई होती रहे, जो भंडारे लगते हैं उनमें प्रॉपर साफ सफाई के साथ साथ जो खाने पीने की गुणवत्ता है वो उचित हो। इसके अलावा जो हमारे अतिथि लोग आते हैं उन्हें किसी प्रकार की असुविधा, चाहे वो ट्रैफिक को लेकर के हो, चाहे आश्रमों में या होटलों में रहने को लेकर के हो।
Routes leading to the Radha Rani temple have been specially decorated and freshly painted, creating a colourful festive atmosphere. Devotees praise the overall arrangements, highlighting the cleanliness, well-organised facilities and the deeply devotional spirit.
बहुत बढ़िया व्यवस्था है, बहुत अच्छा खाने पीने की बढ़िया व्यवस्था है, अच्छा सब कुछ, गौशाला साफ सफाई सब बढ़िया, बहुत अच्छा है। राधे राधे भैया। पेंटिंग भी बहुत अच्छी है, बढ़िया, ग्वालियर में सब कुछ अच्छा है।
यहाँ पे बहुत अच्छी साफ सफाई है, यहाँ देखकर लग रहा है कि भगवान स्वयं आए यहाँ पे होली खेलने। बहुत अच्छी व्यवस्था है यहाँ पे।
Holi celebrations in Barsana this year will begin on February 24th and conclude on March 5th.
And on to some business news now. Share markets were hesitant and the dollar slid in Asia on Monday as investors waited for some much-needed clarity on US tariffs, while confidence in the entire AI trade was set to be tested by results from tech diva Nvidia this week. Oil prices eased ahead of another round of talks between the United States and Iran due in Geneva on Thursday, with the risk of US military strikes lingering if a deal is not done. Well, S&P 500 futures fell 0.3% and Nasdaq futures 0.4% ahead of earnings from Nvidia, which is sure to cause waves given the tech behemoth makes up almost 8% of the S&P 500 index. And in sports news, Italy bid farewell to the Winter Olympics with a grand closing ceremony in Verona city that celebrated art and sporting achievements. The ceremony was entitled Beauty in Action and also featured leading Italian ballet dancer Roberto Bolle at the ancient Verona Arena. The games, formerly co-hosted by Milan and Cortina d'Ampezzo, have been spread across a large area of northern Italy. The baton now passes to the French Alps, which are expected to follow a similar blueprint in 2030. Norway finished atop the medals table with 18 gold and 41 medals overall. The USA was second with 12 gold and Netherlands third with 10, while host nation Italy was placed at the fourth. Norwegian cross-country skier Johannes Klæbo made history by winning all 6 races in which he participated. And South Africa ended India's 12-match winning streak at the T20 World Cup with a crushing 76-run win in Ahmedabad in their opening Super 8 match. After a counter-attacking 63 runs by player of the match David Miller and some late hitting from Tristan Stubbs took South Africa to 187 runs with a loss of 7 wickets. The defending champions were all out for 111 runs in 18.5 overs, failing badly in the first chase of the tournament. Left-arm quick Marco Jansen finished with 4 wickets, while left-arm spinner Keshav Maharaj took 3 scalps as the South African bowlers exposed India's fragile batting lineup. The defeat meant India will take a poor net run rate forward, and that could prove vital if their Super 8 group is tight. India will need to win their 2 remaining games against Zimbabwe and the West Indies to have a chance of qualifying for the semi-finals. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.